Hey, I'm Lori. Welcome to my channel. See, I'm sitting in my house. I'm sitting on the couch. That's where I do my lives. That's where all my shipping stuff is. So I want to talk to you about my business, where my business started, where it went, what I've learned from it, how I went from 0 to 6 figures, and then why I decided to bring it back home. I did have a warehouse and a storefront, and I had a lot of customers. I was busy all the time, and it was really great. I really enjoyed it. It was something that I always wanted to do, and I did do it. So I want to tell you why things went down the way they did. I know a lot of people are curious, and I want to encourage you that if you do want to do something like this, that you can do it. It is possible. But I also want you to go into it knowing what to expect and really what it takes to do something like this and the kind of commitment that you're going to have to give. Because that's really what it's going to require. It's going to require a really big commitment from you. It's going to take time. You know, if you hear people telling you that you can make thousands of dollars without very little effort overnight, it's just not true. I was lucky. I'm a CPA, and so I've already helped other businesses start and run their businesses. I really already knew the basics of business, so that helped me a lot. Not everybody is going to have that knowledge. So I really wanted to do a video and tell you what happened, what worked, what I did that made it grow, and why I decided to step back and really how to change things and bring it way back down. So I'll kind of start by telling you my story of why I started my business. So I am a CPA, and I worked a lot of my career in hospitals, a lot as a CFO, so Chief Financial Officer, and it's a very stressful job. My last job I worked at was a small rural hospital, and they really did not have a lot of money. So it was a lot of work for me to really keep the hospital going and be able to pay the salaries and really kind of stay on top of the billing. And it was a very stressful job. So I have always loved crafting, and I started doing wreaths at home at night just to kind of take away that stress factor. And so I would take them into work, hang them on my door. My door was in the main hallway of the hospital, so everyone walked past my door, and people would stop and ask me about the wreath, and the wreaths started selling off of my door. And then people would come and ask me to make them, and I did made some for some of our foundation fundraising and things like that. And I really enjoyed it. So I started making them more and more. At this time, one of my children is on the spectrum, and he was really struggling in school and just in general. And after a lot of prayer and consideration, my husband and I decided that I would stay home and homeschool our children. I'm not a person who gonna just sit around and do nothing. So I really wanted to have something to do. And I thought it would be fun to do the wreaths and just, kind of use that. So it took a while before when we first started talking about it to when I actually did stop working. And so during that time, I actually started a YouTube channel, and I joined a business group, with another wreath maker just to kind of get an idea of how they got started. And I did really well on YouTube. I didn't really start on Facebook until much later, and I just really enjoyed it. I loved connecting with people. I loved making the projects. It was just great. So I decided, well, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do this. So at first it was just videos, and then I did a little bit of supplies. I started a business group and a design group, and I was teaching people how to start and run a business and, kind of different things about designing and how to price their products, things like that. So I really wanted to be able to help others who were in the same situation as I was, that really needed a either replacement of income or just some extra income. And I did have that beginning knowledge of how businesses worked. So it really helped me to help other business owners, know where to start and kind of how to start things. And I was able to teach them, about income taxes and things like that. And I really enjoyed it. And what I found was that although I love accounting and I have been doing that for a lot of years, I've been a CPA for like 25 years, I really, really liked the teaching part. So I discovered that that was the part that I really loved. So I wanted to do more of that. So I did it while I was at home. And, I transitioned from my job and I started homeschooling the children, and I was doing wreaths kind of on the side. Then I decided to do wreath kits, because when I would design a wreath, people would always asking me, where did you get this? Where did you get that? Where did you get this? Where did you get that? And so I thought, well, I'll just put a kit together and then people can follow along with. Well, that started it. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it really just started with small things like the wreath kits. And then I started doing sublimation because it was hard for me to get the quantity of signs that I needed in the kind of colors and design that I wanted. So I started designing my own signs. And so I started selling the signs and the kits. And it got to be where it was just way too much for our house. And it was driving everyone crazy that there was stuff everywhere. I also take care of my parents who are now in their 90s. And at the time I started it, my dad really helped me a lot. And we're talking several years ago. So this was a several-year transition of starting small and building up to where I was. So I started looking around for a place to, start putting my things so I wasn't having to be at home and have all this stuff everywhere. I already had a storage unit because I couldn't store all of the stuff in our house, and just the boxes. And at this point, I think I was selling maybe between 50 and 60 kits a month, and then signs, of course. But I did find a warehouse that is just down the street from us. Not very big. It was a small warehouse, maybe 1,000 square feet, had a little office, and I had already hired my first employee because it was getting to where I was having trouble keeping up with the kids' school and the business. So my employee and I moved into this warehouse, and I worked, so we did school in the mornings, about 4 hours, and then I would go to work, and I would work until 6 or so. I would go home for dinner, and then I would go back and do my lives. I was doing between 2 and 4 lives a week, and quickly grew out of that space. Once I got that space, and I had a lot of space, I was able to start adding more. I think when I was in that space, we got up to about 250 of the wreath kits a month, and we were also selling just general wreath supplies. So I ended up, after about a year, I ended up leaving there and went to an even larger warehouse. So this warehouse was about 6,000 square feet, and it was huge, but it was great. And I ended up with about 4 employees at this point, and we were running between 50 and 100 orders a day. And I was well into the 7-figure mark, and had employees I loved. There were some bumps along the road with employees. There were a lot of things I learned about having employees. So having your own employees is totally different than managing employees at a company that you work at. And I will kind of talk about that a little bit because it's an important lesson that I learned. Then at that point, I was doing wreath retreats once or twice a year. And I really wanted a space to do the wreath retreats. At first, I was doing them. I think the first time I did one was in an Airbnb that I got in Myrtle Beach. I did one in Charlotte. I did some here where I live. And I found this storefront, small storefront. It was about 1,000 square feet, and I thought it would be a great place to do the retreats. And I also wanted to add on a business day and just have a place that I could have these retreats, and it would just be a lot of fun. So I did get a lease on a place. Was a storefront right next to an ice cream shop, and it was a cute little place. And I thought, well, I'll do other things there, like teach. We had a wood machine, so we were cutting wood. There were a lot of little things that happened along the way, ways that we expanded the business and, brought on new things. A laser machine was one, but we were going to wood and have little painting classes and wreath classes and things like that in this new location. Well, at that time, we found out that my mother has leukemia. So my mother's in her 90s, and her bone marrow is just not keeping up with producing the blood cells. And so we went through a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of tests. We had to do infusions. There were a lot of things going on during that time. And so I really had to spend way more time, taking my mother to doctor's appointments and things like that. And it got to be very difficult, because the way that the business was structured was everything was dependent on me. So I was the face of the company. I was the company. And so I only had me. And I did have some assistants, and I did have employees, but I was really the one who was, online, who was selling the things, who was doing the videos and the lives and that kind of thing. The person who did the wreath retreats. I did have some help in my design groups. I had several designers who really helped me tremendously, but it was just getting to be so difficult to really keep up. And so I decided to hire a manager for the storefront, because there was just no way that I could do that by myself. So at the time that I decided to hire a manager, I decided to start with the first person that I had hired, and really wasn't her fault. I really didn't give her a lot of direction. I had a lot of things going on at the time, and she had a lot of things going on at the time, but needless to say, it did not go well. Things were not getting done, and were going by and no one was there. It was just a lot of things. And so I ended up trying to hire someone else, and I made some mistakes doing this. This was really the first thing that really caused me issues as far as the business goes. I did end up hiring someone, but I did not do a background check like I should have. So whatever you do, don't do that. I was kind of desperate at the time. I really could not handle having two locations. Even the one location was really difficult for me at that time. I also had a lot of health issues going on, which I later found out to be I have an autoimmune disease, and I also have type 2 diabetes. So I just really had a lot going on, and it was just a terrible struggle trying to keep everything together with taking care of my parents and homeschooling my children and having a business. It was a lot. What I discovered is that you can't do everything. You can't do everything by yourself, and you can't do everything without support. You need the right kind of support. This person ended up doing some really terrible things. There was some theft. My business information got sold off. It was pretty bad. Really and truly, it was my fault because I was not paying enough attention. Now, this didn't ruin my company, but it really made me sit down and evaluate really what I wanted to do. I was so stressed out all the time. I wasn't sleeping. I was working too much, and it was really very difficult. So I made the difficult decision to close both locations and to really divest myself of most everything I had and to bring it back to my house, and which is where I started, and just do the things that I really had time for and get back to where I was enjoying what I was doing. So at this time, everything had become a job and not a passion anymore. When you have a small business and you are doing everything, and most people are, it's just them. Some people are lucky to have people to help them, but most of us are not. You need to be careful how you structure your business, how you plan out your business so that you continue to enjoy it. Because if it gets to where you're not enjoying it, it becomes a job and it becomes a chore, and you really lose all of that enthusiasm you had. So it was really difficult for me to get out of the leases that I was in. It was tough. I did have to sell everything off. We actually ended up doing an auction in the end. It took about a year to get everything settled. It was tough. When I first came home, I was so exhausted. I did not do a whole lot for probably a month because I was so exhausted. And it took me a long time to figure out exactly what it was that I did and didn't want in my business. And what I have really learned is that because I grew so fast, I didn't really sit down and evaluate and make a business plan and really plan out what I wanted to do, what I wanted my business to look like, how I wanted to go about doing that. And, when I've always done that for other people, it's really easy for me to look at businesses and say, okay, this is what you need to do. But when you're in your business, when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to do that for yourself. So one of the biggest things I learned, because it was me and not a client, is that you really have to plan out each time you're going to make a change in your business. So if your business starts growing, before you jump in and get a new lease and do all these things, sit down and plan out several years and look at how much time you're spending doing things. Plan out how you want to do things based on how much time you're spending. It has taken me a really long time to get my health in order. My mother has really struggled. My father is now having a lot of issues. So I have to spend a ton of time taking care of my parents. And I just really don't have as much time as I did before to run my business. And I really don't have the energy. So one of the biggest things that I struggle with is fatigue. I have a lot of fatigue with my autoimmune disease and can make things really difficult. So the reason I want to tell you about my story and what happened, why it happened, is so that I can tell you what you should be looking for in your businesses, the things that you want to think about, because when you're in the thick of your business, it's really hard to think about these things and to make these plans. So the first thing I learned is that social media is a must. You have to use social media these days in order to make your business successful. That doesn't mean that you have to do a live every single day, but you do need to be consistent and you need to really make a connection with your audience. So you need to be yourself. You need to let people see who you are because that's what they're going to connect with. To sell a product or services, you really have to make it so that people know you, they like you, and they trust you. So that's when they're going to purchase things. Social media, that's how you do that. It's really important. So social media and consistency, very important. So you need to make a plan about what social media you want to use. And one thing that I always told my business group members was do one thing at a time, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed when you are a small business and you're a small business, and if you try to do all the social medias at one time, you're going to get overwhelmed super quick, and then you're just going to quit. So pick one, stick with it, get really good at it, and then you can add on another one. So, there's several that are really good. You can do YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All of those are good. So I would pick one, the one that you're the most comfortable with, and really do that one. One thing that I have always said to my business group members is you want to do things that bring in revenue first. So the first thing you have to do is make sure that you have a place that you are listing your sales or products, like Etsy or Amazon Handmade or a Shopify store, something along those lines, because if you're not selling a product or services, you don't have a business. You can't grow if you're not bringing in income. Another thing that you really need to make sure you do is you need to have several sources of income, because if you put all of your eggs in one basket, then if something happens, you're in trouble. So because we all build our businesses on social media now, you really need to have a way to reach your customers that is off of that social media. It happens a lot these days where things are hacked. And to me, if your account gets hacked, you no longer have access to your customers. If you don't have access to your customers, you can't make any money. It's really important that you have a couple of ways to get in touch with your customers. So I'm talking about like email list or a text list. Those are super important. Diversify that revenue so that you're not trying to count on just one thing. So if you are using social media, if you're doing lives or videos, you can make money from the social media as well. You can sell digital content. There's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you're not putting everything into one category. The other thing that I've learned that I really want to stress is you need to decide what kind of time commitment you want to make to your business. If you really think you want $1 million business, you need to understand that's going to require $1 million time. So it's going to require a lot of work to get there, and then it's going to take a lot of work to stay there. I struggled with whether I wanted to give all that up, but the truth is that it was time. I was not enjoying my life. I was stressed all the time. I was not spending time with my family like I should. So it's important that you understand what you want your priorities to be and really give yourself a checkpoint to make sure you're sticking within that. So things like just rechecking your business plan, making yourself a board of where you want to go. Those kinds of things really help to make sure you're going to stay on track. Another thing that is super important is don't look at other people and what they're doing in their business. It is so easy to get caught up watching someone else. And I found myself doing this and kind of got myself off on tangents of, I want to add that into my business. I want to add that in. I want to add that in. And it didn't help me. It really just made things more difficult. So stick to a plan out how much time and effort you want to put into it. Be intentional with your time. So don't get on social media and watch everybody's videos. You're going to burn yourself out and you're not going to have time to work in your business. So if you can't work in your business, then it's not going to grow. Don't pay attention to what other people are doing. If you don't really know anything about business, it is a good idea to have some kind of advisor, whether it is someone you know who knows about business, or if it's a business group. There's a lot of different ones out there. You have to just pick one that is someone that you resonate with, someone you trust. You can learn everything you need to know to run a business, mostly online. What you can't get online is support. So it's easy to watch a video on how to set up your Facebook page, how to set up your YouTube channel, what kind of videos you should make. AI has made things super easy with coming up with video ideas and just giving you lots of marketing tools that you can use, but doesn't give you support. It doesn't give you the emotional part that you're going to need with being a business owner. So it's really important to find a group, even if it's just a couple people, of other people in your industry that you can talk to, bounce ideas off of, whether you find that in a group or a business group, design group. Any of those are good. It's a great way to really have sounding board, because a lot of times that's what you need is a sounding board, someone to help you when you're struggling with a decision. It's really important that you have that. I am lucky that I did have, one person and, a couple of people that I could talk to about, what do you think I should do here? Something like that. The important thing to know is that success is not defined by other people. It's defined by you. So if you're happy with where your business is, if you're happy with the direction it's going in, that's all that is important. Don't listen to people who say things like, you should do this and you should have that. And no, it's an individual thing, and it can only be based on what works for you and what's important for you. It can't be based on what is important for someone else. My business is much smaller now, but it is really back to where I want it to be. And I have time to take care of the things that I need to take care of. And I am just a happier person. I have more time to manage my health and take care of things that I need to take care of. I do have some future goals for my business and some things I want to change and add. But everything I do from now on is going to be super intentional. So I'm going to be super intentional. I'm going to do things the way that I know are going to work for me, are going to work for my family and our future. I have built a wonderful community and I absolutely adore them. I just enjoy what I do. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I actually have other channels I plan to make in the future. I have other things I want to do, but I'm being very intentional with how I do things, how I go about it, and making sure that I have time to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, then there's no one to take care of my family. I just wanted to do this video because it's so important to realize that if something fails, if you have to turn around and redo something, if you have to go back and rework how you're going to do something, it's not really a failure. It's all part of learning how to be a success. So there is no success without failure. There is no growth without making some mistakes. Don't beat yourself up if something like that happens. And remember, it is okay to change things. If you get in over your head, it's okay to stop, pull it back some. If you really want to grow more, then be very intentional. Be intentional with your time. Be intentional with your purpose. And that's really going to help you grow. So I hope this helps someone to know that it's okay if things don't always go the way that you plan them, or if you have to change things, if you have to change direction. It's okay to do that. Don't ever let someone tell you that it's not, because it has to work for you. It doesn't matter what other people think. It only matters if it works for you and your life and your family. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope that you got something out of it. And I know for the people who have been watching me for years, I'm sure you wondered what was going on. But that's kind of my story. And I have regrouped. And now I am really focusing back on where I started and really the things that I enjoy. I'm still doing sublimation signs. I do sign and ribbon sets now, but no wreath kits, no wreath supplies. I just really don't have the space. I really want to continue to grow my community and be supportive for people who either just need the crafting for therapy like I did, or who want to actually make it into a business. So I hope that it's helped you, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye, y'all.